Devils Like to Dance, Chapter 8. Spider-Boy Gives Chase. Ciel Phantomhive had put his plan into motion. The puzzle was solved, and now the real game begins. The Blue Net chess master had placed all of his pieces into the appropriate locations. Now, it was just time to wait. He had most of the city's detectives performing a stakeout, you see. All the players on the side of London's law enforcement were on the lookout for suspicious persons loitering around the potential future crime scenes, searching for the Sudoku killer. Although he isn't the killer, there was a suspicious person loitering around the yard of Location R, an apartment complex on the northern side of the Thames River. He was a blond boy who looked no older than at least 15. He had fair, pale skin and icy blue eyes that seemed to suit the weather perfectly. The boy wore a dark purple coat and black pants to hopefully shield himself from the cold weather. His breath was visible as he played with his soccer ball outside the building. He did this alone, as other children would prefer to stay inside during such unpleasant conditions. But then again, so would he. This sucks, he thought. It's bloody freezing out here. The boy stopped for a moment and looked to the cafe across the street, where his backup was supposed to be. The two pained-looking officers had convinced Eloise to be the one to stand outside in order to monitor the situation more closely, as no one would ever suspect a child. Eloise, however, thinks he may have been tricked. "Those bastards," he said aloud. "I can't believe I let them trick me. Nothing's happening anyway. What kind of bloody lunatic would commit a murder in this stupid weather?" He kicked the ball again, taking out his anger on an inanimate object. Probably for the best. The boy in purple quickly realized he may have spoken too soon. As he kicked the ball, a man wearing a coat with a hood, walking his dog, round the corner again. "That's the fourth time I've seen him circle this building," Eloise thought. "I think that may count as suspicious." The boy formerly known as Jim kept up his farce, and the man kept up his own. He rounded the corner with his white dog with brown spots a few feet in front of himself, even passing Eloise on the sidewalk. The man got to the edge of the lot, where he looked around a bit to see if anyone was watching, and rounded the next corner to the other side of the building. No one was watching, no one except Eloise. He nudged his soccer ball in the same direction the mysterious man had went, taking care not to be seen by the man or seen out of place. He stuck his head around the corner to see what the man was up to. Lo and behold, the man had walked up to the side of the building and had started to look into the windows like some sort of creep. Eloise pulled out his phone to send a text. Yes, he could text, keeping the man within his peripheral vision. Suspicious person sighted. A man in gray coat with a hood, with a large white dog with white spots in location R. Suspect has circled the building numerous times and is currently peeking into windows on the western side of the ground floor. A.T. Send. Eloise waited a few moments carefully, watching the man's every movement. He watched as the man stood by the window, taking notes, and occasionally looked around to see if anyone was watching. The blonde had oh so carefully stayed out of sight. Then his phone rang. It was an alert ringtone, notifying the phone's owner of an incoming text. He quickly reached for his phone to make it stop, but it was too late. The suspicious person swiftly whipped his head around to the origin of the sound and saw Eloise, and immediately knew he had been seen. The man stood there for a moment, then took a few steps back. His dog barked at the boy who had dared to startle its master. Its leash was dropped as the suspect ran, and the blonde clad in purple followed in pursuit. The dog saw this and lunged at the boy, baring its teeth. Eloise put his arm up in order to protect his face, neck, and torso. The boy fell to the ground with a yelp as the defensive canine's teeth pierced his coat and skin. The cotton lining of the coat was now seeping from the coat and now lay in clumps on the ground, bits dyed scarlet here and there. Now Eloise was really mad. Not only is his favorite coat now ruined by the tear, the blood, and the smell of dog, but the suspect is also going to get away. As a result, he will be scolded by Ciel later for being so worthless. That I don't need, he thought. He did the only thing he could do in an attempt to rid himself of this troublesome mutt. He punched it in the face. The dog still latched on, much to Eloise's displeasure. So he hit it again. By now, the canine's nose was bleeding, and it had a large bruise on the side of its head. Yet it still would not give up. Thoroughly peeved at this, the blonde hit it again, and again, and again, and again, and again. It finally let go. The dog now lay whimpering in pain near the spot of the tussle. But our hero had no time to deal with that. His arm hurt, his fist hurt, and the suspect was getting away. Perfect, he thought aloud. Eloise looked at the ground and noticed a bit of snow has gathered since he was attacked, and his foe's master, while trying to escape, had left footprints. He had no time to waste. Eloise followed the trail, sprinting as fast as his legs could carry him. He jumped several fences in order to catch this man. As he ran, the freezing air entering his throat hurt his lungs. The wind felt like it was cutting into his skin. He slipped numerous times in patches on the ground where water on the ground had decided to freeze, but still he ventured forward. What Alois Trancy wants, Alois Trancy gets. The blonde was relentless when it came to getting his way, and the thing he wanted most was to catch this bastard. The man exited the alleyway with our hero in full pursuit, right into a busy intersection. Horns honked, tires screeched, and the blonde stopped to catch his breath, huffing and puffing regardless of the frozen air stabbing the lining of his trachea and lungs, the very same air escaping his lips moments afterward being visible for the whole world to see. He looked across the street to see the man he had been chasing up to that point staring back at him doing the very same. The man then turned and started running again, with traffic picking back up after being interrupted by the very same person. Alois had lost him. His ears and basically most of his innards and limbs were now in pain from the chaos, so it took him a moment to realize his phone was ringing. This time it was an incoming call. Alois answered it, coughing and wheezing from the air. Hello? Alois? It was the voice of the boy's brunette friend on the other end. Are you all right? You didn't answer my text. What happened to the suspect? Alois interrupted the interrogation to cough. You sound terrible. Alois paused for a few moments to collect himself and calm his breathing. Eventually, he responded. He got away. Chapter 8. Chapter 9, excuse me. What's the deal with that Trancy kid? Hours had passed, and information of what Alois had seen had been passed on to the authorities. The boy's coat now lies within the garbage bin, and his wounds were being treated. Are you sure this blood isn't from the mongrel, Alois? Yes, I'm pretty sure of this when a dog's teeth enters my flesh, Sebastian. Everyone in the room was at a loss as to why Alois had no apparent injury, although he insists upon it. The two gentlemen in the room, besides the blond boy, were equally flabbergasted by his story. You say you punched the dog? From the injuries it sustained, it looks more like you perhaps hit it with a rock, Alois. Sebastian frowned, clearly not buying Alois' story. The usual calm demon was getting increasingly annoyed with this problem child. Whenever he makes a mess, Sebastian has to clean it up. Whenever Alois breaks something, it is Sebastian who must fix it. Most of the time, these events are completely avoidable, and how anyone could be so clumsy or ignorant was beyond the raven-haired man. But what had disturbed him most, however, was the what if had Alois been telling the truth. The average domestic dog has a bite force of 260 pounds. For a human arm to be unaffected by that is virtually impossible. The dog tore through Alois' coat, meaning it most likely was not just playing. So if this is the case, why is Alois' arm unharmed? This also bothered Ciel, who was equally unable to wrap his head around it. Thus, he decided he needed to further discuss this with his butler. But first, he needed to get rid of Alois. Alois, you're filthy, and you smell like dog. Go take a bath, he said. Well, aren't you nice? Responded the boy in question. Always. I still think you legally should be unable to come within 5 meters of a wooden spoon. Bath, now. The brunette shooed his blonde friend out of the room. Alois bowed, imitating Sebastian. Yes, my lord, and left the room, closing the door behind him. Ciel immediately turned to his servant. So about this arm, he began. I was pondering the same thing, my lord. That is not normal. But really nothing was in the Phantom Hive house. The house has been destroyed countless times and mysteriously restored overnight, and has been one of the headquarters for England's underworld for centuries. The inhabitants certainly were not normal either. The butler is a demon of an unknown age who is forced to be a much younger demon's servant forever. The younger demon previously mentioned was not always a demon and was granted demonity by a third demon, now deceased, and is a sociopath, a bit of a sadist, and suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. Then there is the blonde in question, who has psychological problems similar to, if not the same as the first boy, but also appears to have bipolar disorder and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. In addition to that, the trancy boy was brought back from the dead. It was these thoughts that came flooding into Ciel's head when the word normal was mentioned in his context. It was this train of thought that caused a question to claw at his mind. What exactly is Alois? Sebastian paused for a moment, searching for an answer to his master's question. A small smile graced his face when he thought of this answer. I suppose he may be a zombie, my lord. This thought was funny to the servant, as it may as well be true. I don't think he's a rotting, walking corpse, Ciel said, not finding Sebastian's words to be humorous. Perhaps we should make him visit a physician, he suggested. Shall I forge the appropriate document, sir? Yes, the young master replied. I don't want a zombie in my home. We need to get to the bottom of this. Understood. The man clad in black answered, and thus he left to complete this task. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the very same manner, a certain blonde was enjoying a luxurious bath. Tell me your secrets, O rubber ducky, he said, pressing the small bath toy up to his ear before giving it a gentle squeeze. Squeaky, squeaky. Yes.